Hello, everybody. My name is Tyson Green, the host of The Turning Point, and I am ever so excited to launch the very first episode on gaining confidence and breaking free from anxiety. I'm super excited because if you're lacking direction in any way, this is the perfect show for you. You're going to get actionable advice that you could take home and use right away. So to introduce Doug, here comes Doug right on the show, and here he is.
Tyson, my man. Hey, buddy. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, very excited. You look amazing, don't you?
I feel good, my friend. I'm excited. Admittedly, I'm a little nervous, but it's a good nervous. A good excitement. And first, I just want to thank you, folks. This was actually Tyson's idea. We were sitting in his home with a few friends, and we were having a conversation one night, and Tyson and another friend, Mayor, and a couple other people were firing questions at me, and they call it getting Doug Dane. They go, well, you got to get Doug Dane. And so they were firing questions at me, and I'm going boom, 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 and just prattling stuff off. I go, man, oh man. Tyson goes, you got to run a show. Now that was over 2 years ago, and this really is my turning point. Another one of my turning points is this show. I've been putting this off for way too long, and like you, some of you. There might be things that you've been sitting on for quite a while and putting off, and I know I was, but I'm done with that shit, and this is the Turning Point show, so I'm really excited. So first up, let's give some love to Tyson. Just throw your name in the chat. Well, I guess we can see your name when you put something in here, but just tell us where you're from. It'd be nice to see where our audience is coming in from, and give Tyson some love, because he deserves it. This was his idea, and I'm very proud of him.
You're very kind, Doug. Wow. Thank you very much. And honestly, and when I presented this idea, I knew this is the right thing for you, because I know that how many people you can help with a Q&A show just like this. And so many people just have this bookshelf help, whereas like you can just take it, these people, there's questions, and just give them right answers right off the bat. So I'm so excited to get this started.
Yeah, me too. I was out for lunch with somebody yesterday, and they said, how did you develop the ability to, get to the person's stuck point so quickly and get people unstuck so fast? And I said, well, honestly, there were some skills I had to develop, but I definitely had a really strong desire, because I've been stuck most of my life, off and on most of my life. And so the reason I created this show was originally I got a picture in my mind. And I had this vision. I remember where I was at a breakfast table, and we were talking about an event that was coming up. It was for young people and schools, and it was all centered around a huge increase in teenage depression, anxiety, and suicide. And they were talking about this event coming up, et cetera. And I got this picture in my mind where I just saw this environment, this place where I could be online anywhere from my laptop, anywhere in the world. I'm here in my home tonight, but I could be anywhere. And when I felt like it, I could hop on and I could just go live with people and just help them. And I probably developed a real strong desire to do that, because, man, oh man, I spent a long time in my life trying to figure this shit out, and try to figure out how to get myself unstuck. And I did everything. And so I wanted to create the show as a way to reach a lot of people, and through technology. This is really cool. I'm sitting in my living room. I'm on my laptop. I've got a camera I'm talking to with you, and Tyson's at his home, and he's running a broadcast through a streaming service, and we're broadcasting to all my Facebook channels, to YouTube, and we got people all over the world that are watching this. And so the pictures is coming to life for me. And what I basically wanted to do is I wanted people to understand that it doesn't have to be so freaking difficult. There's lots of great stuff out there. There's lots of great content, a lot of great shelf help, a lot of great books, a lot of stuff online, really good stuff. But I found, at least for me and many of the people that I talk to, they just don't seem to get the real advice they're looking for that actually works. What they see and what they watch and what they read, it makes them feel good, but it's temporary. It just kind of gives them a bit of a buzz. It gets them going again. And I experienced that. I spent years in therapy, off and on. And my partner Di kind of likens it to somebody's drowning, and you're on the shore and they go help, help, and you row out to try to help them and rescue them. And you get out there and go, I'm fine, they're not drowning anymore. So you row back in, and then a couple of weeks later they go help, help, and you row back out to try to help them. And by the time you get out there, they're fine again. And that's kind of what happens. And so people and I was on this roller coaster ride of emotions, and I got to a point where I just kind of said enough is enough. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time on my story tonight. If you want to watch my story, you can watch it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Maybe that's where you're watching from right now. I was on television back in 2001. My story went public in the newspapers, on the front page of the national news here in Canada. And then a couple TV shows picked the story up and said, we wanted to talk to you. We wanted to interview you. And that was probably one of the biggest turning points in my life, where I went public with a story that I had blocked out most of my life. So again, I won't spend a lot of time on the story, but to give you context, basically what happened, and the reason I want to tell you my story quickly is because every one of you has a story, okay? Every one of you has a story, maybe not as severe as mine, maybe more severe than mine, but everybody has a story. And that story, for the most part, for most of you, has created what I call a mistaken identity. And you're stuck in an emotional prison because of that mistaken identity. And that's where I was stuck. And so for me, I got dropped into this home. I was adopted at 6 months old. My birth mom had 6 different kids with 4 different men. And so she handed me over to Children's Aid, and I ended up in this violent alcoholic family with a brother of mine who was adopted earlier. And so I spent the first part of my life in this very abusive, emotionally, physically violent, abusive home. My dad beating my mom, and my mom beating my dad. And my brother and I trying to split these fights up. And police were there almost every weekend. And it was a very dark, dark place. We lived in a very poor neighborhood, didn't have a lot of money. And, I guess the darkness for me began very early. And then, like many of us, we just don't really get what we want when we're young, or get what we need. I went looking for what I wasn't getting, and I found it at a Radio Shack store, searching for love, and I end up in the hands of a ring of pedophiles. And so for 2 years, I'm sexually abused. It ends in my kidnapping when I'm 15. I arrive home from that kidnapping, police show up at my door, and the next thing you know, I am in the courthouse asking to testify against the men that abused me. That led to drugs and alcohol abuse probably to the age around 22, 23. I worked in factories. My first job was at McDonald's. Then I worked at a gas station, and then I worked in this factory. And then one day I decided I want to get into business. And so I got into business, started a couple businesses, a tanning salon and a perfume company. And it wasn't very long, less than a year, I was bankrupt and I was stuck again. And so that story is what came out in 2001. And so that was really probably the first big turning point. And so tonight, for you, this could be your turning point. And so I want to talk to you tonight about what we're going to do here on the show a little bit, and then we'll get into it. We've got some people that have submitted some questions, and we'll cover that off. So this section of the show is called My 2 Cents. Now, it should say My 2 Cents, S-E-N-S-E. People see My 2 cents, think, that's a typo, Doug. No, it's my 2 cents of common sense, or at least the common sense that I've developed through my own experiences. And so what I want to do is each week, I just want to share things with you that I've learned. And I'd like you to come on the show, and I'd like to help you. And so I sat on a stool. It was I guess it was, when was it now? It was early 2014. I was in a meeting room, sitting on a stool with my mentor, Bob Proctor, and he worked one-on-one with you. It's called the hot seat. And there was other people that were in the meeting watching me. And I took my turn, and luckily for me, Bob said, why don't you come work for me? And that's what I now do. But sitting in the audience watching the other people in the hot seat, I learned way more watching them than my own experience on the stool itself. And so I do this hot seat, rapid fire, high impact, laser coaching with my clients, and I work with people all over the world now. And so I want to work with you. And so we're going to ask you to participate. Now, there's 3 ways you can do that. You can obviously comment on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching, and that's feeding into the show here. And Tyson and my team, they're keeping an eye on the questions, and that's one way you can submit. If you want to come on the show, we're going to drop a link into the comments there. You can click that link. That'll put you into the green room in the show, and then Tyson can chat with you, and we can see about bringing you on the show, and I can help you one-on-one. Or thirdly, you can get on my email list. If you're on my email list, you got some emails, and you're invited to submit your questions that way. If you want to get on my email list, we're going to drop some links in to grab a couple of freebies. I've got my reality check and my turning point workbook. They're just free little things that I think can really help you quickly. And so you can get on the email list that way. So let's get into my 2 cents. All right. First off, let's just see where you guys are at. Just type in yes in the comments if you think you're brave enough to come on the show. Any yeses there? Let me know. Just type in yes. You don't have to come on tonight, but maybe it's another night. But let's see if you want to come on the show. So the biggest problem that we're facing in the world is judgment. The real pandemic is judgment. It started a long time ago. It started in your little life. When you were little, you had an experience, you didn't know what it was, but you watched it. You watched it growing up. You watched your parents judge people. You watched your parents judging friends and family, judging each other. And then fairly soon, they started judging you. And fairly quickly, although you may not remember it, maybe you do, but you started to feel a little bit unsure of yourself. And you started to second guess yourself. When you were little, you didn't second guess yourself at all. You were free as a bird. You were creative. You were imaginative. You could just create anything in your mind. You could act it out in play. I remember listening to Mary Morrissey, one of Bob's close friends and his spiritual mentor, and she said, at a very young age, our minds are absolutely perfect. Our intuitive mind works perfectly. Our intellectual mind works perfectly. Vibrationally, it works perfectly. It's in complete tune. And it works beautifully. Then around 4 or 5 years old, because of judgment, we start to live from just what's going on outside, what people are saying and doing, and what we should and what we shouldn't do. And so the real pandemic is judgment, and there is a vaccine. Now, I spent most of my life living with judgment, primarily with self-judgment, because for some dumb reason, I took on the responsibility and the guilt and the shame for everything that I'd been through. I had made it my fault. Now, it took me a long time to figure out that was not the case. That wasn't even true, but that's what had happened to me. And so this whole judgment piece has set up a very strong fear of criticism. And so one of the other reasons for the show is I want to break down those barriers. Okay. The only reason you're afraid to come on the show is you're afraid of what people are going to think, or you're afraid of maybe what is going to come out and what I'm going to say to you, and it might make you uncomfortable. Now, if you're 4 or 5 years old, and we probably will have some 4 or 5-year-old guests on here, I'm sure people will be on here with their kids. They don't care. They don't care they don't come on here and go, I wonder how my diaper looks on the show tonight. They don't care, right? And so I'm hoping that I can break down this judgment of yours, this feeling of being judged, and this fear of criticism. And the best way to do that is by telling the truth. And so what I discovered was that it's the truth that shall make you free. Now, I didn't grow up in religion. I didn't believe in God. I went to Sunday school until I was about 6 or 7 years old. But I kept hearing the truth shall make you free. The truth shall make you free. And it wasn't really until I embarked on my own relationship with God, and really not religion, but my relationship with God, and really starting to study theology and obviously the work that I do in mindset. And it was when I went public with my story, that's when the truth began to set me free. So now that was 2001, all right? It took me, up until 2014, so 13, 14 years later, where I joined the Proctor Gallagher Institute, started working with Bob Proctor, and started coaching people on how to really change the way that we think. And so my goal with this show, my goal tonight, I'm trying to get you to change your mind, okay? The biggest problem that you've got, the biggest problem I've got, the biggest problem we've got is ignorance. And what I mean by that is we just lack the understanding. We lack the awareness. We have all these biases. We have all these perceptions that we simply inherited, we adopted, we started living with them. We think they're real. We think they're true. We think they're right. We defend them. I mean, there's cultures that will go to war to defend their biases and their perceptions. And we do the same thing. And what it's doing is it's keeping you stuck. It's keeping you in that mistaken identity. It's keeping you where you are. And so it took me a long time to figure this out. So 2014, 2015, I really started diving into trying to figure this all out, because I had people coming to me and they'd saw the story and they had saw the television show, and they were starting to see the results that I was getting in my life. And they said, Doug, how did you go from that? Because statistically, I should be homeless, dead, or in jail. I was in jail. I was never homeless, and I'm still here. And people go, how did you do that? And when the article came out, of course, I had all kinds of people writing in, congratulating me and sharing their stories. Some people elected me like the leader of eliminating childhood abuse. And if you came to me, I couldn't really tell you what to do. I mean, I could tell you what I did, but I couldn't transfer it to you into real advice that could work. And so I went on a mission that I was going to figure this out, not just for me, obviously, but for other people. And so it took me a few years, but around probably 2016, 2017, I then embraced this experience, this story of mine as a gift. And I really do look upon my story as a gift. I really believe that God put me in that place. He brought me here for a reason. He put me there to test me, to challenge me, to teach me, to grow, so I could be on this show with you tonight. I could be helping people that I help. And I got a big heart and I got a big mission on my mind. And so my objective is to change your mind and get you thinking in a different direction. So the turning point is I've got to interrupt the way you think. I got to change your mind. And the only way you're going to experience a turning point is if you're open-minded and you consent to changing your mind. Now, most of us are locked in to our beliefs and we just stay stuck that way. And so I got really good at understanding people. I got really good at really listening closely to understand people. And through developing my intuition and my understanding of the mind and how our mind and our brain and our thinking works, I realized actually we've got this beautiful, elegant machine. And I thought, I'm going to figure out how it works. So if I've got this machine, Maxwell Maltz, great author, wrote a great book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And it was a discovery of self-image in 1960. And he discovered how the mind actually works. He said, man has a machine. Man's not a machine, but man has a machine that he uses, and you're the operator. I am the operator. So I thought, if I've got this machine, if I got this mental gift, I better figure out how it operates. And, you know, the other things I discovered is, as I got into this, there's so many people that are struggling. I had a call today with somebody. I had a long text message from somebody. And I said, aha. See, when I get to the true story, then I know what's blocking you. But if you don't tell the truth, if you don't tell me the truth, then I can't really uncover what's actually getting in your way and what's actually stopping you. And so I dig in with a few questions, and fairly quickly I can figure out what's going on for you, why you're stuck, what you believe, why you believe it, where you picked it up, and then show you a new perspective. And so my objective is to change people's perspectives, because way too many people are struggling. Young people are struggling. Young people are growing into adults that are struggling. And those adults that are struggling, that are basically young people in adult bodies, are raising children that start to struggle. And so I want to stop that. Our society, our social system is perpetuating this emotional dis-ease. We don't have to be suffering the way that we're suffering. Now, one of the reasons this show did take too long, I was going to say so long, it took too long to come about is because my own judgment and my own perceptions and my own fear of criticism was getting in the way of speaking up on what I really, truly knew. At first, my intuition's going, yeah, I think you're on the right track. But then my own self-image and fear of what everybody else was going to think or how they'd react to this talked to me out of, maybe you don't know what you're talking about, Doug. And after working with hundreds and hundreds of people all around the world, I know that most people are struggling because they have this story. And when it comes out, that's the truth. That is what sets you free. And so society is now perpetuating this. Society perpetuates it through social media. I'm not a big fan of social media. I'm on social media because that's where everybody is. But there's parts of social media that are perpetuating judgment, perpetuating criticism, perpetuating fear of what other people are going to think. Our social system itself is just continually creating a perpetuating cycle. And so I want to break all this, and that's the mission that I'm on. And so I'm hoping that you'll help me. I'm hoping that you'll help yourself. I'm hoping you'll let me help you, and I'm hoping that you'll help other people. And so that's basically what I wanted to do. Now, before we get into the question section, I want to tell you something that I discovered. This took a very long time. It probably started when my first marriage fell apart in 1996. And that's probably when I first entered therapy. Now, I was going there for separation counseling and marriage counseling. I had no idea, what was going on inside of me. And so 95, I don't know how many years that is. What are we at now? 2020, I guess that's 25 years, isn't it? Is that 25 years, Tyson? I don't know. Anyway, it was a long time. It was very hard. I struggled with anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide. I was up, I was down. My friends called me Dougie up and down or Dougie toilet seat because I was up and down like a toilet seat. It took a very long time. It was very hard. And I made it very complicated because I didn't really have any understanding. I lacked awareness. I didn't go to school. I quit high school at grade 9. I tried it 3 different times, never finished it. And I figured it's got to be hard. It's got to be complicated. And it's going to take a long, long time. And it did. Exactly what I thought it was going to be is what it was. But here's what I discovered. It's not hard. It's not complicated. And it doesn't have to take very long. And so I figured it out. I figured out how to make it happen very, very quickly. And so what I want to do is I want to show people how to make it happen very, very quickly. Now, some of you on there, you're probably struggling like I was. You're going, no, it can't happen that fast. That's your paradigm. That's your belief system. That's your perception. That's your biases. That's your experience saying it's got to be difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult. So tonight, what I want you to do is just open your mind, and I want you to accept the idea that actually it could be quite simple. I want you to accept the idea that it doesn't have to be hard. I want you to accept the idea that it doesn't have to be complicated. So Tyson, we got some questions we can get into?
There's actually one question in the chat that I want to bring up. But
Okay.
First of all, I just want to say, wow, amazing. That's amazing. I love your perspective around the world. And it truly inspires. Every time I hear that, it just inspires me. And it just refocuses me. And I just need you around more. I just need to hear that all the time.
You got to get Doug Dane, Tyson.
Yeah, that's what we call it. That's what we call it.
Buddy, every Thursday night, you're going to get Doug Dane.
So there's this one question. It's a small question in the chat. And it's anonymous, but it says, I need a proper schedule, a complete breakdown and time schedule of what to do every single damn day. And I just thought, what do you kind of think about this kind of comment?
Well, the first thing I would say is what you think you need isn't necessarily what you think you need. What we think we need is based on our experiences and our results. And I'm not saying what you're asking for and what you think you need is a bad thing or that it's wrong, but you might not need what you think you need. That notion of judgment, sometimes when you say, I need this, you're kind of saying, I should be better. I should be more focused. I should be more effective. I should be on time. I shoulda. Now, I don't know who asked the question. I'm not going to make any assumptions about them. But there are definitely some things that you can do that can help you to lay down a schedule. I've got a very structured schedule. I really believe in time blocking. So my whole schedule is blocked out. I believe in having a list of things to focus on. If you go into my Facebook group, Doug Dane Live, there's a download an audio from a program that Bob made called Lead the Field. It's called the $25,000 Idea. I'll let you listen to the recording. I won't get into it, but it was a $25,000 idea back in 1910. Whatever 25 grand was worth back then, that's the value of the idea today. And it's a very, very simple thing that I picked up from Bob Proctor, that Bob picked up from his mentor, Earl Nightingale, and it's very, very effective. But what we all got to do is we have to develop our ability to focus. And so that was one of the things I really decided to do is I really need to focus on you. When I'm sitting down talking to you, like right now, there's probably all kinds of things going on around me. The camera I'm looking at, my kitchen's in behind, but I'm focusing on you right now. I'm talking to the red dot on the camera, but I'm talking to you. And you need to develop your ability to focus. And I developed that because I wanted to really to understand and have the ability to really listen. Anybody that thinks multitasking works, you're out to lunch. It doesn't. That just means you're ignorant. And again, remember, when I say you're ignorant, not in the context you may have used it or heard how it was used. When I say ignorant, it means you lack understanding. Your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. And so I was on a call today, and Bob told the lady, said, get a little magic marker, put a little black dot on the wall across from your favorite cozy chair. Now, nobody's going to notice the black dot except for you because you put it there. And just spend 5 minutes a day just focusing on the black dot and thinking of nothing else but the black dot. Now, I did that. He told me to light a candle and focus on that. I did that. I did lots of things to develop my will and develop my focus. And if you develop that, there's probably a lot of things that you don't need. And the way that Bob would describe it, the way I describe it, is like when you were a kid and you had that magnifying glass and you took the white heat of the sun and you channeled it to a white hot bead, and you could burn paper and leaves and wood and different things like that. Well, your mind is that magnifying glass. The energy that's flowing to and through you, with your mind, your will, you can focus that energy and you can become very, very effective. And the more you develop it, I didn't really get this at first. Bob said, you're going to be working a lot less. You're going to have a lot more free time. And you're going to be making a whole lot more money. And you're going to be way more effective just by developing your will. Now, I didn't believe him at the time. But I did believe enough to follow his instruction. And I did that. And you know what? I'm still kind of surprised. Again, in the morning, I'm thinking I should be working harder. But I don't work that hard. I'm very focused. I'm very effective. And you can do the same thing. Now, that's a decision. And everything we're going to talk about on this show, tonight, every Thursday, 8 o'clock, it always starts with a decision. Okay, I can't help you unless you decide and consent. Then the door opens, and then everything starts to change.
Amazing. So Sheena actually was asking, how do you determine what you need to focus on? Like once you focus, what you don't need when you focus?
Well, that's a great question. I think number one, well, let me tell you what you shouldn't be focusing on first, okay? Improper use of the machine, improper use of your mind is thinking or looking backwards, okay? I cannot change the past. In fact, Tyson's question, Sheena's question is already behind me. Okay? I can't change it. The question is already out. You cannot change what's happened in the past. Too many of us live our life with guilt and regret looking backwards. And if you look backwards on your life, you see yourself as that person, you stay as that person. You've got an intellectual factor called your memory. The only time you should look backwards with your memory is to recall information that can help you get where you want to go. Okay, so you shouldn't be looking backwards. And you shouldn't be worrying about the future. You should be focusing on where you're going, but you don't worry about what's going to happen a mile or 10 miles down the road. So you've got this built-in mental GPS, Sheena. It operates perfectly. Your job is to provide it with an address, a destination, a goal. It will calculate the route, and as you start moving towards the goal, it will call out new directions and course correct you as you go. Now, your mind only works in the present moment if you're focused on the present moment. So, to answer Sheena's question, number one is you got to know where you're going. You got to have a goal, right? We are goal-oriented. Our mind is a built-in automatic goal-seeking machine. It's like a torpedo that gets dropped in the water. It automatically seeks out the target. Your mind's the same way. And if you don't have a goal, you're probably waking up in the morning, not all that motivated, not all that excited. You kind of just get up and, aimlessly wander through your day. Most people are tiptoeing through life, just hoping to make it safely to death. So you got to get clear on what you want. That's essential. And so one of the things we teach, of course, in our company and the people I work with is that's the starting point. The starting point of achievement is desire. You got to decide on what it is you want, and you got to create a burning desire for that, and then start moving.
Awesome, Doug. Wow. You really know how to tackle these questions, eh? There's no messing around.
Well, I've been practicing, Tyson.
I know. Well, do you want another one? There's some from inbound from online that we have gotten from the recording.
Yeah, we got some that sent. Why don't we cover a couple that got sent in, Tyson?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So
before you do that, has anybody clicked the link to come on the show? Anybody in the green room yet?
No, actually, no one has came on yet.
It's episode 1, so we'll cut them some slack.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But we're very friendly, just to make sure everyone knows.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So Lori from Florida, what do you think is the best way for your parents to support teens with their mental health?
Oh, I love that question.
Me too.
I'm going to probably piss some people off here with this answer, but I don't really give a shit anymore. What I've discovered, most of the problems that young people face with mental health is inherited and manufactured. And what I mean by that is it's their thinking that's causing their anxiety and depression. So either they're dealing with judgment and fear of criticism, either they've got beliefs that they inherited from their parents that just don't line up for them. When our kids are young, they start fighting back. Once their intellect starts to get developed, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, they go to school, they start fighting back. Now, oftentimes the parents say, well, the kids are bad, or, they're giving me a hard time, or they just don't friggin' listen. What they're doing is their intuition. Okay. Now, every one of us have a gift called intuition. Kids, their intuition is not skewed. It's perfect, but it gets skewed through their programming and through their domestication and their upbringing. And so they're kind of going, yeah, something's off track here. Now, they don't know what the right track is, but something's off track. Now, they don't have the authority, they don't have any power, they don't have any confidence, and so they just succumb to what the parents say is right or wrong. What I've learned as a parent with the mistakes that I made and, studying psychology of parenting and really understanding people in the way that we think, is that first of all, we get locked into a way of parenting, and we hand this stuff over to our kids, and they watch all kinds of stuff, and they're kind of going, yeah, something's off track. The truth is, you don't know your kid. You think you know your kid. You know your kid to some degree, but you don't really know your kid completely. I believe we need to change our perception of our role as a parent. When I changed my perception of my role as a parent, everything in my life changed. My relationship with my daughter changed. And what I decided to do is it's not my job to get my daughter to like me. It's not my job to get my daughter to love me. It's not my job to please my daughter. My job is to figure out who she is and what she wants to become and just help her become who she is, rather than telling her who she should be, or she shouldn't be, or who she can and who she can't be. My job is to be the observer. My job is to watch and listen and learn. Now, do I screw up and make mistakes? Absolutely. So it's number one is I think you've got to change your mind about your role as the parent and really pay attention to the shit that's coming out of your mouth, to the beliefs that you're just spewing habitually and you're handing off to your kid. I often tell parents, sit down with your child and apologize to them. Apologize and say, you know what, honey, I made some mistakes. That's probably one of the best pieces of advice I got. It was from the director of my daughter's Montessori school. Eden entered junior kindergarten, and this was a new thing for us. And I mean, I didn't even think I could be a parent, man. I thought from what I went through, I'd become an abusive parent. And so I was confused and I was lost. I wasn't sure quite what to do. And she said, you know what? It's okay to apologize to your kid. And so I think the key to support your kid is the things I mentioned. And also when it comes to their thinking, I wouldn't tell them what to think because they're going to just fight you back anyway. But what I would do is I would change your perspective on responsibility. I am not responsible for my daughter, Eden. She's almost 18. I'm responsible to her. I'm responsible for a few things. So she lives here in my home. I buy the groceries. I drive her to school. She's in grade 12. I have some responsibilities that I have for her, but very few now. I get her to make most of her decisions, pretty much all of her decisions now. I'm responsible to her. And what that means is I'm responsible to be a better version of me, walk the talk, and demonstrate how I want to live my life as a model, and then let her pick up whatever she wants. I still don't care what she thinks. If she doesn't like the way I live my life, if she doesn't like the way I'm doing things, I don't care. I care about her. I love her deeply. You know, I want to be with her the rest of her life. I want her in my life for the rest of my life. But if she doesn't want to do that, then that's her life. I will never tell her how to live her life for my life. And so it's just, I'm not throwing a bunch at you, but it's just changing your perspective. And that's the starting point. If you change your perspective, everything changes, and you'll see your kids differently. And when you see your kids differently, they feel it, they pick it up, and they become more confident. Your job is to develop their confidence by just making them feel more highly about themselves. Just look for the good and pour it into them. Look for the good and pour it in them. Don't tell them what to do or how to do it. Let them figure it out for themselves. That's my opinion. That's my 2 cents, Tyson. Oh, we lost you there.
I'm muted, actually. So actually, we have a few people in the green room right now. If you would like to take some questions, we have currently 3 people in the green room right now.
Well, are you going to pick somebody? Did you ask them what they want to talk about?
So I have a queue. First come, first serve, and I'm just going to kind of add them in.
All right, let's bring them on. What the hell?
Okay, first we got Sheena from Florida. Oh, she might be muted.
I'm good now, right? I think so.
Hey.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. I have to tell you that even in this first episode, I'm getting so much value. And my question actually is directly related to what you were just talking about in terms of raising kids and how to guide them and how to, help them become who they're meant to be. And I was curious, at what age do you feel like that should start, or is there an age where that process that you just described really is appropriate to begin?
Right away.
I kind of figured you were going to say that.
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't believe that, though. I thought, no. I mean, when Eden was, a year or 2 years old, I remember sitting up, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning watching baby Einstein videos, my head nodding off. I wouldn't have believed that before, but I definitely believe it now. When children arrive here, like I said earlier, their minds are perfect and they're wide open. And it's our education system and the way we've been taught to be educated, to educate ourselves or educate others, that is really restricting the flow of their development. And so, and I don't have any personal experience with it, or I know anybody, but I know oftentimes I had conversations with my mentor, Bob Proctor. He's talked about, people, parents, and young people he's worked with, and the results are remarkable. So, I just say you just go at it without any perceived limitations that they have. I think you'll spot the limitations if there are any, and then you can just kind of, back it off a little bit. But I think the number one rule is impression of increase. And I'm not talking about, fake compliments and stuff like that. And what do they call that? I don't know, maybe, Sheena, what do they call that? Where they give out awards and medals to everybody in competitions.
Participation awards.
Is that what they call it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about fake. I'm talking about just real, genuine, authentic praise, and look for the good, and just pay attention to them, and then just start pouring into them. I mean, if you want to set your kid up to win, then expose them. I guess one person experience, it's not a big issue or big deal, but when Eden was little, her mom and I, we like to eat out. We like to dine out a lot. And people said, like, you're not going to be able to go out for fine dinners. I go, yes, we are. And so we started going out for dinner. And I remember Eden she was less than 2 years old. And we had traveled to Quebec City, and we had pulled into an overnight place, a hotel. And then one of the finest restaurants in Quebec, rated, was there. It was a beautiful Italian restaurant. And we sat down, we had dinner. And Eden sat through a 4-hour, 7-course dinner at 2 years old, because she was used to that. She was used to dining out at restaurants, and the servers and the maitre d', they're all so amazed, and she got all the attention, of course. So I just say, don't put the only limits we have are the limits we have. Like, you've got limits, I've got limits. Like, there's a great book, U Squared. Don't doubt your limits, because you'll never reach them. Don't doubt your kids' limits, because you'll never reach them.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
What prompted the question?
Well, I have a 3-year-old who's been at home for quite a while, and just listening to you talk tonight really sparked, or like it was the light bulb went off, in realizing that maybe I can do more to support him in his development, even at 3. So that's why I was curious.
Okay. Can I ask you the question?
Of course.
What, if anything, are you telling yourself about the job you're doing, or you as a mom or as a parent, that's negative?
I think it's very similar to what you mentioned before, like when you were first talking about how it's just supposed to be hard. Like the idea that I have is that parenting is really, really hard. I mean, it is challenging, but overcomplicating just allowing this child to be himself, and also really focusing on what you're told you're supposed to do, as opposed to how he reacts and naturally responds to his environment, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was on a call today with Bob, and he was talking about a book called The Power of Awareness, Neville Goddard. And he was talking about the law of assumption. And Neville was talking about how we can just really do so much more, create so much more, if we would just follow a simple formula. And the formula was ease minus action with assumption. In other words, why not just assume that this is going to be easy and don't work so hard at it? I love that.
That's amazing.
Now, you might hear that and go, that's a bunch of bullshit. Like, what's this guy smoking? You might never come back to the show again. But that's just lack of awareness. And just be careful, and this is for Sheena, but this is for all of you. Just be careful what you're telling yourself. And remember, most of the things you're telling yourself, is what you were told, and you just picked it up and started carrying it around with you, or you picked something up and then you made a mistake and then you started giving yourself a hard time, and that is going to impact your ability to raise your son in the best way possible. Listen, you got a great attitude. You can tell that right on camera. The fact you came on to ask that question, I mean, that tells me so much about you as a mom. I think we all deeply care about how well we do, but very few people actually are really committed to real change in order to become the best version of themselves as a parent, so they can best help these young people that we're raising. And we have a responsibility to raise healthy young people. So if you're struggling, any one of you on this call are struggling like I was, you have a responsibility to get your shit together so you don't raise a kid that struggles, that turns into an adult that struggles, that raises another kid that struggles. And that's the perpetuating cycle. Thanks, Sheena.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Awesome, Doug. Very, very
good.
good.
Man, Tyson, time is freaking flying. It's already 8:45.
Yeah, and I'd love to get to the next. We have a few more people in the green room. Do you know? So next is Lena, and I'd love to bring her on. Are you ready? Is that okay?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay.
Into an adult that struggles, that raises another kid that struggles, and that's the perpetuating cycle. There's a bit of delay there. Thanks, Sheena.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Hello, Leanne.
Awesome, Doug. Very, very good.
Man, Tyson, time is freaking flying. It's already 8:45.
Yeah, and I'd love to get to the next. We have a few more people in the green room. Do you know? Hey, Lena, can you hear us? So next is Lena, and I'd love to bring her on. Are you ready? Is that okay?
Sure, let's do it.
Can she hear us? Okay. Hello?
Into an adult that struggles, that raises another kid that struggles. We got some audio crazy stuff going on here, Tyson.
Oh yeah, Lena, come to the restream.
Hi.
Good to see you. Hello, Leanne.
Hello.
Awesome, Doug. Very, very good.
Man, Tyson, time is freaking flying. It's already 8:45.
Yeah, and I'd love to get to the next. We have a few more.
Tyson, I think you're gonna have to take her out of there. It's causing some replay here.
Sure.
We got
hear us?
some audio. Sorry, folks. You're muted, Tyson.
Sorry about that. I hate to deny a question. That's probably one of the worst. But we're gonna go on to Rebecca.
Okay, let's see if that works.
Hello, Rebecca. Awesome. She might be muted. Are you muted, Rebecca? Hello.
There's a little microphone button down there.
Oh, maybe see what your settings are.
See a little gear there, Rebecca, on the right? You might have to check your audio there. We'll get this figured out, folks. You'll become masters at technology. No, not working. Tyson, why don't you get Rebecca into the green room and see if you can get her sorted out, and then let's give me another question to read out, maybe.
Here, let's see if Steve, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My friend.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Doug Dane. How's it going?
How did you get on the show?
A little birdie told me.
Now, this guy, Sheena, is a good father. He's got two beautiful twin boys. He's a client, former client, and he's just a good guy. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, buddy.
What's up?
I'm glad to be on here.
Well,
so my question would be in regards to when people are going after a goal and things are happening and they're taking the right action steps. Why is it that they're always looking or asking to see if it's the right thing that they're doing?
Oh, I love that question. That's so good. Let me go back to somebody asked a question about I said we have to have goals.
Yes.
You have to know where you're going, right? So as soon as you decide this is what I want, this is where I want to go, then if what you want is in any way in conflict with your beliefs, your rules, your values, your past experiences, your self-confidence, if there's any conflict at all, it's going to set up a physical feeling. We call it the terror bear. You get this feeling, and people don't really understand what's going on. It's actually called the law of opposites. And so when you have a positive thought, by law, through the law of opposites, a negative thought has to show up in the same place at the same time. Now, when you have both the positive and negative showing at the same time, you get this feeling and you get uncomfortable, and very quickly, your rules, values, beliefs, all that stuff can begin to talk you out of the very thing that you want to do. So that's the first thing that happens. Now, what I discovered, it took me a while, because I was so used to asking people for advice and for their opinion. I said, Steve, can I just get your advice? Let me ask you your opinion. And I spent my whole life doing that. And I did that because when I was little and then growing up as a teenager and a young adult, I just wasn't sure of myself. I lacked so much confidence that I wasn't confident enough to do the things I wanted to do. And then when I did do them, I was so messed up that I screwed them up. I go, man, oh man, there's something wrong with me. And so we were brought up, and that's back to the beginning of the show, where this notion of judgment and fear of criticism, we've just been brought up that way. We learned very early on to second guess ourselves. Our educational system, our parenting system, the systems that support both those systems have fostered a habitual behavior of being unsure and second guessing. And so we're conditioned to go, hey, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? And that's just a habit. Now, when you start to really study how your mind works, and the best book, and I know you've read it over and over, the best book that really opened my mind was called Think and Grow Rich. And a lot of people have read the book, but they don't really understand what the book is actually about. And in it, he explains Andrew Carnegie's formula, who was the wealthiest man in the world in the early 1900s. He discovered a secret to how you go from a poor immigrant Scottish kid to the wealthiest man in the world. And his mission was to accumulate a fortune and give it all away. And that's what he did. And so he had this, he inspired the author Napoleon Hill to write this formula, the laws of success is what it was originally called. And so you have these gifts. You have your mind, you have your brain, you have the subconscious mind, you have your intuition. Okay, you got these mental tools, and you have the ability through your mind and your brain to send information and receive information, much like a radio. And so when you start to study this and really understand how it works, you start to gain confidence. It's one of the first things I would have you do. And for tonight, all of you, we're going to get to the first step here in a second. One of your first steps that I would have you do is I would make a decision that you're going to stop asking for the opinion of others. Just stop it. And if you want the opinion, there's only one place to go. Okay? You go to spirit, you go to source, you go to infinite intelligence through you. Okay? Your mind is like Google. You get your pen out and write out a really good question to put in that search engine called your mind, and then send it out and watch what comes back. So if you want to really get somewhere fast, start going to the right place for advice. Just make your mind up, you know what? I don't need the advice of other people. The only advice you should get, the only advice that you should go looking for is go talk to people that have knowledge that you don't have that can help you get where you want to go. Now, you don't have to tell them what you're doing. You don't have to tell them your goal. You only have to tell them enough information to get the information that you need. Like, Steve, if you went to the library downtown Guelph, you wouldn't walk in the library and talk to the librarian and spend an hour talking about your life and your goals and your story and where you've been and all your struggles when all you're doing is looking for a book on how to build a website. All right? Just go to the source of information, get the information you need from a specialized source, and then follow it. And never go seek advice from somebody that's not getting results that you want. Like, never go ask poor people for advice on how to get rich. But that's what we do. So just make a decision that I'm done with the opinion of others. I very rarely, sometimes it still happens, it's an old habit, I very rarely ask for the opinion of others. Now, I stopped that, but I still had a fear of criticism. And so then the other thing I decided to do is I just started affirming, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody thinks of me because I'm a really good man and I like myself. And so I started affirming that and affirming that. So combined with that decision and affirming that I was a good man because I am a good man, I don't give a shit what you thought about me, very quickly, that started to change. I don't know if that helps, but that's my 2 cents.
It does. And I think what you just said, I think going back to what Sheena was talking about, I think they should apply that to raising their kids. It's like you said, kids are perfect. Their DNA is perfect. Everything is perfect about them. It's our perception of life that makes them imperfect.
Exactly.
Right. And that's where it starts. And to give you a perfect example, everybody always says, oh, it's the terrible twos, terrible threes, they have a slogan for every year. My kids went to school for JK and my son right away said, Daddy, I don't want to wear gloves to school. And it's the middle of winter, it's minus 20 degrees. I'm like, all right, cool. Right. Don't wear gloves. I don't care. He starts walking down the street. He stops 15 feet from the house and he says, oh, Daddy, you're all right. I got to get my gloves. And we went back. And he's in JK. He came up with this himself. I'm not telling him what to do or what to not do.
Yeah. And you're letting him make decisions.
Exactly. And that's the biggest key factor that I took away from studying thinking into results was make a decision. And that's what we don't allow our kids to do, is to make their own decisions. We make the decisions for them. And I think that's the greatest wrong that you can do to start off your kid's life.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks, pal. Good to see you.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
All right. Okay, Tyson, listen, we better wrap it up here. Let's just talk about the first step. So the first step, this is the section of the show where I want to try to give you actionable advice. Now, tonight, what we want to do is we want to launch this. We want to get it kicked off. We want to expose it to the world and bring some of you onto the call here tonight and get us rolling. But my goal is to get you on camera working through a challenge in your life and really getting you unstuck, showing you your turning point, and then giving you actionable advice and steps on how to move forward. So I think probably to wrap this up tonight, I think what I would say, the first thing I would do is I would, number one, grab one of those freebies that we dropped the link for. So either the reality check or the turning point workbook. And those would just be a couple simple pieces that will get you to kind of take a little bit of inventory on your programming and your beliefs and the way that you've been operating. And number two, and I really want you to affirm this. I want you to get your pen out, and I want you to affirm that I am going to be open-minded. I am going to develop my awareness for the betterment of me and the betterment of the people around me and the betterment of the world. And if you make that decision, man, oh man, just that decision alone, doors will open, things will happen, and your life will get better. And the last thing, because we started the show, my 2 cents was about this notion of judgment being a pandemic. What I discovered, the easiest way to release yourself from judgment was to stop judging other people. Form the habit of leaving everybody you come in contact with the impression of increase, we call it. Look for the good in people, let them know it. You just form the habit of handing that out over and over until it becomes a habit. And when you're in the habit of not judging others, you're going to have a hard time judging yourself. And so I want to thank you, Tyson, for putting this all together. I want to thank all of you that came on tonight, that are watching, or maybe you're watching the recording on YouTube. And we're going to do this every Thursday night. And I'm committed to be here. And I'm going to commit to get better and better, make the show better and better. And I just want to do whatever I can to help anybody out there, help you, help others. And I think that's really what we all need to do.
Yeah. And first of all, I'd like to say like amazing questions tonight, but to all the people that we didn't get to, there is a link for a landing page for you to submit your question, so it can be on the next show. And then me as Tyson, I'm gonna remember you guys' names for sure. And if you guys come on to the show next week, I'm gonna recognize you and make sure that you guys get on. Since we kind of ran out of time today.
Yeah.
I see you, Alex and John in the green room.
Yeah, we'll have more time. We had a bit of a preamble to beginning to kind of talk about what the show is all about, and we'll have a lot more time to work with you. And again, like just submit to get on my email list, and you can you'll get a link in an email that will give you the ability to send in your question. And we'll get a dialogue going before the show starts. I may even talk to you before you come on the show and try to help you, and then we'll bring you on the show and we'll help you, and that'll help others. I mean, if you come on here, you're not only helping yourself. In fact, you're helping other people more than you're helping yourself, and that's a good thing. So,
yeah. And Sheena, I see that you're pasting the links into the Facebook group chat, but would you be able to paste them into the YouTube group chat so the people on the YouTuber can get them as well? I see that some people are looking for them on YouTube.
We will get it in YouTube.
Yes. Cool. Yeah.
Is that a wrap, Tyson, as they say?
That is, I hope many people had a turning point at one point. Many people had a turning point. I saw the chat. It was very lively. Thank you for the lively chat. It makes it super exciting. And I love I just love being here. This is awesome, Doug.
All right, good. Well, thanks for putting this together. I had a lot of fun too. We'll see you next Thursday.
Yeah, I'll see you next Thursday. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
See you.